What if I told you that Ferrari has already chosen its test days in Barcelona, and that this choice reveals more about its mentality than any official statement? Why did they avoid the first and last day? Were they really hiding behind Specca? Get ready, because what you are going to discover completely changes the way we should view the beginning of the Hamilton-Leclerc era at Maranello. Subscribe to continue uploading more of this type of content now, if we continue. Ferrari has given the first blow on the table before even rolling a single kilometer in the 2026 season. The Maranello team has decided its dates for the private tests at the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya, and the leak has not only revealed the calendar, but has set off alarms among rivals. From January 27th to 29th. Those are the 3 days that Ferrari has reserved within the testing window from the 26th to the 30th. There is no improvisation. There is no room for chance. What seems like a simple choice of dates is actually a strategic move that says much more than it appears. Why not on the 26th? Why avoid 30? Ferrari has opted for a consecutive sequence in the heart of the week, and that reveals a clear intention: continuity. If there is something that any Formula One team fears in testing, it is the disconnection between days. Having to dismantle the entire setup, stop the analysis, interrupt the sequence of technical validations that fragments the learning. Instead, Ferrari has drawn a straight line of 3 days without breaks, where data flow and changes between sessions can be applied without losing technical context or operational rhythm. But there is something even deeper. By letting the first day pass, Ferrari gives itself a silent advantage. The 26th will be for others. For those who want to take the risk of opening the track, facing the green asphalt, without rubber, with unpredictable temperatures, and without prior references. A perfect environment for errors, unexpected failures, and uncontrollable variables to emerge. Meanwhile, in Maranello, the SF26 will be receiving the final adjustments after its presentation in Fiorano on the 23rd. That 4-day margin is no coincidence. It is the minimum time necessary to disassemble the exhibition car, pack it, transport it to Barcelona, and leave it ready to begin the test without logistical emergencies. Let's start with Monday the 26th. That day will be available for all teams. But Ferrari has given up on him. Why not go out first? Why not put the SF26 on the runway as soon as the test window opens? The answer is overwhelming, because being the first also means being the one who risks the most. The track will be green without rubber. Temperatures still unstable, with little data on thermal behavior. And the margins of error will be wider because the environment has not yet stabilized. Instead, Ferrari decides to observe. Let others try first. See what problems they face, what failures emerge, what systems collapse. And with that information, adjust. Test mileage is not just any metric. It is the lifeblood of a technical project. Each lap on the track allows you to validate systems, verify sensors, and fine-tune settings. But above all, it allows us to find faults. And that is the central point. Ferrari wants to break things in Barcelona. He wants that if there is something that should fail, it should fail there, not in Sakir, not in qualifying, and much less in a race. That's why they don't look for times. They don't look for headlines. They look for stress. They look for thermal demand. They seek to force the SF26 to the limit of reliability to know exactly how robust the architecture of their new single-seater is. What Ferrari is looking for is to validate structure and systems, not pure speed. The Spec A will integrate the new hybrid power unit with its revolutionary balance of 540 thermal and 475 electric horsepower. This never-before-tested technical architecture needs a controlled environment to fine-tune. Torque blending, the coordination between the combustion engine and the electric motor, is one of the most complex challenges of this technical era. If there is even a slight desynchronization, the car becomes unstable, loses traction, wears out tires, and compromises handling lap after lap. Therefore, the most important thing is not how much the car accelerates, but how it does it. How predictable its power delivery is. How uniform the throttle behavior is when exiting the corner. How stable the regeneration system is during braking. And that is not measured with a stopwatch. It is measured with internal sensors, with thermal data, with vibration analysis, with feedback from the drivers after long runs, not fast laps. Furthermore, Ferrari has opted for an even more conservative tactic, hiding its true aerodynamic design. The final surfaces are being manufactured in parallel in Maranello and will not see the light of day until the Bahrain tests. This allows, on the one hand, to protect its innovations from competition. and on the other hand, extend the production time of components with more complex geometries. Because designing is one thing, but mass-producing carbon parts with millimeter tolerances and optimal structural strength is an art that requires time. Even in terms of materials, Ferrari is exploring radical solutions. The leak about the new steel cylinder heads instead of the traditional aluminum is a clear example. Despite being heavier, these cylinder heads support much higher combustion pressures, and this translates into superior thermal efficiency, ideal for the new 100% sustainable fuel of 2026. But this type of innovation is not validated in a wind tunnel. It is validated on the track. Low stress, with real kilometers. And that is why, once again, mileage is the true gold of these tests. Spec A then is not a test. It is a pillar. It is the basis on which the competitive Ferrari will be built. If the car holds up, if it doesn't break, if the data agrees with the simulations, then Ferrari will be able to move forward with confidence towards Spec B. If not, they will still have time to correct. Therefore, what happens in Barcelona is not a show. It's a surgery. And that surgery requires all systems to breathe together, communicate, and function synchronously. From the battery to the MGUK, from intercooler cooling to exhaust thermal management, each element will be monitored to the millimeter. Because Ferrari is not just playing for the start of the season. The credibility of a new era is at stake. The era of control, patience, technical maturity. If there is something that Ferrari has learned the hard way in the last decade, is that in Formula One you don't just win on the track, you also win in secret. Because in this category, showing too soon can cost you the entire season. And that is why the technical concealment strategy that they are implementing in 2026 is not a simple precaution. It is a systematic, thorough, and deliberate cover-up operation. Barcelona will not be a showcase. It will be a smokescreen. The Ferrari SF26 that will roll during those 3 days in Montmello is, by design, a visually incomplete car. Not because it is poorly finished, but because it is designed to confuse. The most critical aerodynamic solutions of the car, from the side pods to the flat bottom, from the front wing to the diffuser, will be simplified versions, intentionally layered, so as not to reveal the concepts that will really make the difference. And this has a compelling reason. The Formula One paddock is the most hostile ecosystem for innovative ideas. Each team sends undercover photographers to the tests. Each technical media publishes millimetric analyses of the renders, of the side images, of the diffuser cuts, of the flow channels. Nothing goes unnoticed. A simple 2-degree angle on a side fin can trigger a complete redesign on another piece of equipment. And Ferrari knows it. In 2026, they do not want to offer their rivals a single clue. Therefore, every visible part of the car during the private tests in Spain is designed not only to function, but to deceive. Fins that will be placed where they will not go later. Air intakes that will disappear in the Spec B. Suspension elements that will be replaced in Bahrain. And even body parts that could be molded in deliberately conservative shapes. Because the goal is not to run fast. It is running invisible. Now, this level of concealment is not easy to execute. It requires millimeter coordination between the design, production, logistics, and press departments. Each component that is manufactured has to be labeled and scheduled. The actual Spec B parts are already in production in Maranello, but will not be shipped to Barcelona. They are stored, protected, and prepared for Bahrain. Meanwhile, the communications team knows exactly which images they can publish and which they cannot. Official photographers receive clear instructions on angles, framing, and even the resolution allowed. There is no room for improvisation, and that changes the rules of the game. Because while other teams could come out with their complete solutions from day one, Ferrari will be operating under a logic of stealth. An approach reminiscent of the glory years of teams like Mercedes, which for years hid their true downforce until the last test session. Or Red Bull, which never showed its aggressive engine map before arriving in Australia. Ferrari now joins that club, the one of the teams that do not need to prove anything outside of the race. Ferrari no longer races to impress, run to build. And that can be seen from the first step he has taken in 2026, the way in which he has chosen his 3 days of testing in Barcelona with millimeter precision. Because this decision is not a simple logistical formalism. It is a direct reflection of a structural transformation that has been brewing for 2 seasons and that, with the arrival of Lewis Hamilton, has reached a new dimension. January 27th, 28 and 29, 2026 are not just dates on the calendar. They are a silent statement of power, of control, of a new mentality. Ferrari doesn't need to be the first out, nor the last to impress. You need to be the smartest, the most prepared, the most calculating. And that maturity is not faked, is demonstrated with facts, with how a technical program is structured, with how what should be hidden is hidden, with how learning is prioritized over the arrogance of wanting to shine in the headlines. Subscribe to continue uploading more of that content. Now you really think about all this.